Today you're going to be creating a program that simulates a physical system, and this is going to be a football simulation. But what is the meaning of the word simulation? A simulation is a model that represents a real or imaginary situation, and simulations can be used to explore options and to test predictions. So, for example, in the real world, before they install a traffic light, they need to create a simulation to test it before they install it, so they can make sure that the colours are going in order and waiting for the correct number of seconds. Also, for example, modelling something that represents a real situation such as football, and we know a very famous game called FIFA, which uses this to create the game and make it seem as real as possible. But what is a physical system? So it's a program where the objects behave as they would in the real world. Now think about when kicking a football. The way someone kicks a football determines how far and how high the ball goes. So if you do a small, light kick, the ball's not going to go very far, but if you do a powerful kick, the ball will go very far and can go very high as well. So for our program, simulating a physical system means using angles or speed to change the way an object moves, and in this case, it's going to be the football. When you're simulating a physical system, you first must break the system down into parts that can be coded. There's no use going in straight away and trying to program everything. You need to start step by step. The different parts will then come together to make the full simulation, and this is called decomposition. Here we have the steps that Purple Mash broke down in order to create our football game, and this game simulates kicking the ball and the movement of the ball. We've got moving the ball, adding friction, changing the speed and the angle, and also what happens when it hits the wall or hits the goalie or the post. The stages show how this is achieved in small steps, each one adding to the physical simulation, and that's what we call decomposition. You also need to remove aspects of the simulation that are not relevant, and this is called abstraction. So if we look at this example here, Purple Mash gives us the option to add lots of different kinds of images, but if we want to create a realistic football game, we don't need robots, we don't need vehicles. In this simulation, there's no spectators, we're not including the weather, and the quality of the pitch, which might affect the friction, is not included either, so we're getting rid of things that we don't need to worry about. On the other hand, some computer games have hyper-realistic simulations such as FIFA, and they do take these things into account. Can you think of some games where the level of abstraction is very detailed, down to expressions on faces and the details of an in-game world? I mentioned FIFA, but there's other games as well to do with boxing and basketball and lots of other sports games which use hyper-realistic simulations and abstraction. So let's answer these questions to help us with programming our game. What physical system are we simulating? So it's a football game. And what parts are we going to need to code? So we have the speed, the angle, friction, the ball hitting the wall, goalie or post. We need the goal and the sound and also the goalie. The steps for each part we have composed, so that was the steps from Purple Mash. And what can you do to make your simulation even more realistic? Maybe you could add more sounds or a score, other players, an audience, or maybe even including the weather and special effects as well. You can also add messages in your game at the beginning and at the end to make your game more engaging. So we're going to be completing the football game Gorilla guided lesson on Purple Mash, and remember to save your work at the end. There's also instructions how to log into Purple Mash on the slides if you can't remember. Once you've logged into Purple Mash, you need to click Computing. You then need to click To Code and then go down to Gorilla and click Football Game and Launch App. We're going to start at number 1 and click OK. Our first challenge is when the user swipes the ball, set the speed of the ball to a number greater than 0. So when you swipe the football in any direction, we want the football to have a speed greater than 0. So we can do 5. And let's press play. So when you swipe the ball, which means you click on it and you kind of drag it, sometimes it takes a few goes and then it should move. Then we can move on to the next challenge. Click OK. Give the ball some friction so it slows down after it's been swiped. In the real world, when you kick a football, eventually it should slow down because of friction against the grass. So let's drag football and put it underneath so it should still be in the indent there. We want to add some friction and we can set it to maybe 4 and press play. when we swipe the ball, it eventually slows down. And click Next Challenge and click OK. Now you've set the friction, set the speed and angle of the ball to the angle and speed of the swipe. So in games that you might have played on a tablet or a phone, sometimes if you swipe really hard, the ball can go really fast, or if you don't swipe that well, it won't move at all. So we're going to do that in our own game. So let's drag the football block underneath, and we want the angle to be set to the swipe angle. So if I swipe up, the ball should move up. It also wants me to change the speed to the speed of the swipe. So click on the first one here and change it to swipe speed. Now press play. And if I swipe, it should move in the direction that I swiped and at the speed that I swiped at. So we can press Next Challenge. For our next challenge, we need to create a function to reset the ball to its starting speed and X and Y position. And we then need to call this function when the ball hits the walls. So to create a function, we need to drag the create variable block to the top, and we need to choose function, and we're going to call this reset. Now at the beginning, the football speed is set to 0 because it's not moving, so we need to click and set the speed to 0. As for the starting position for X and Y, we need to look at the game to find this out. So it says here, the football, the X position is 3 and the Y position is 8. So I can change that here, so 3 and 8. Then says to call this function. So what this means is this won't happen unless the program tells it to use it. Now last lesson we looked at collision detection, and here it wants us to detect if the ball is hitting or colliding with the wall. So drag the collision detection block, and when the football collides with the wall, we want the game to reset. So we're going to call the reset function. So we'll now be able to run this part of the code. So choose call. Now press play and swipe the ball. Now if it hits the wall, it will then go back to the starting position. Click Next Challenge. When the ball hits the goal, play a sound and increase the number of goals and call the function to reset the ball. So that means that we need another collision detection block to detect when the ball collides with the goal. So collision detection, when the football collides with the goal, we're going to drag the sound block inside, and we want it to play. Maybe you can press the play button to play a sound, and then we want it to add to the number of goals by 1, so it's keeping a score. And then we want to reset the game, so it says reset the ball, so we're going to click reset and call. So when the football collides with the goal, we want to play a sound, we want to add to the total number of goals, and then we need to reset the ball so we can play again. So press play, swipe, and if we get the goal, we're going to get 1 point, and we're going to hear the applause, and it's going to go back to the starting position. So next challenge. It says to give the goalie a speed greater than 0, and then when the goalie collides with any goalpost, multiply the speed by -1, so it changes direction. So at the moment the goalie is there but not moving, so we're going to set the speed of the goalie. We can do it at the top underneath create variable. So we're going to set the speed maybe to 2, and then we'll go to the bottom of our code, and we need another collision detection block. So collision detection right underneath. So when the goalie collides with the post, so we can choose any goal post. So we need to change the speed of the goalie by multiplying by -1. So drag the goalie and set the speed, and it says multiply, so choose multiply, and then -1, so click the down arrow. Now what this does is, it's currently moving at 1, and then when you multiply it by -1, it goes in the opposite direction, and when you multiply -1 by -1, it changes into +1, so it will go up and down just like that. So next challenge. Now when the ball collides with the goalie or the goal posts, reset the ball. So we need another collision detection similar to the colliding with wall function, we'll put this at the bottom. When the football collides with the goalie, we want to call the reset variable so it resets the game. And then we want another collision detection block for when the football collides with any goalpost, and change the variable to call the reset function. So let's press play. Let me try and score a goal. We caught it, so try again. It touched the goalie, so this is quite a challenging game. Let's click next challenge. It says to add more sounds and alerts, use design mode to paint your own goalie. So if you go to design, so you double click on the goalie on the screen, you can actually change it. So if I maybe do dinosaurs and then choose one, like maybe the T-Rex, when I play the game, I now have a T-Rex goalie. You can also change the design of the ball. So if I can search ball, there might be different options. There's not that many options, you can just change the design. You can also add more pictures. So if you want to add another ball, you can. Or if you don't want it, you can put it in the bin. You can also add more sounds and an alert. So if you drag the alert at the top, you can type your message. So welcome to my football game. Press play and it will come up, and then you can press OK. You can also have an alert for when you score a goal. So alert and goal. Press play. I don't think I'll get it though. And that ball is really tiny. Nope, I missed. I hit the goal post. So you can also have another alert for when you hit the goal post. You can say, oh no. You can also add more sounds as well. Remember at the end to save your work. So go to menu and then save. Then type your name and football. Then go to your class, which is, for example, 5ash. And then coding 1. And then save so that I can view all of your work. So have fun with it and good luck.